Welcome, everybody, and good morning. This is a Dominate Ductless podcast where I basically tell the stories of entrepreneurs who are they're building their business that are focused around ductless heat pumps. I'm Mike Cappuccio. I'm the owner of Dominate Ductless, and I am real excited today to have business owner Leo Sharkey from Moody Heating and Cooling, and he's located in Leominster, Massachusetts. And Leo, thanks for joining me on the podcast this morning.
Oh, you're welcome. Good morning.
Thank you for coming on. Sometimes it's a struggle getting guys to come on and actually talk about their business. But Leo, let me ask you, we've known each other for a while now. Where did we first meet? I'm trying to bring all this together now. Or when did you first hear about me? Or when did we first meet? Or
I think we first met at either a Mitsubishi training or a Mitsubishi event. I got selected for the Mitsubishi Master Council pretty early after buying Moody, and it was either that or I swear it was something to do with Mitsubishi, maybe.
Okay.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, because we've known each other for a while. So, Leo, give me a little bit. I know a little bit about it, but the audience I wanted to kind of get to know, what is your background, your business journey? What's really going on here? A little bit about yourself, your company. I know that you weren't in the HVAC industry, so how did you get tangled up in this? And let's talk to the audience about that, because I always find this part of the show very interesting.
Yeah, so it's a really long story, so I'll try and condense it, just give you the highlights.
Yeah.
I'm an ex-corporate guy. I have a bachelor's in chemistry from the University of Michigan. I have a master's degree in mechanical engineering from Ohio State, the Ohio State University.
A Buckeye.
Yeah, and I've got an MBA from the University of Minnesota. So I have been a chemist, a semiconductor engineer, an engineering manager. I've been a plant manager a couple of places. I used to run a $45 million business for Siemens, did some independent consulting. I did a bunch of stuff, and I always wanted to have my own company. And in 2020, I was able to buy one. So I knew enough that I was looking for something with recurring revenue, something that made sense to me as a business. So with the engineering background, HVAC fit a little bit. I had done some high level, like big commercial stuff as plant manager. When I was with Roman Boss, we put in a 600-ton chiller.
Oh, wow.
So, there was also a little bit of Dunning-Kruger, I didn't know. And so I just decided to buy an HVAC company, and that was in September of 2020.
What attracted you to the HVAC side? You want to get out of this corporate business. There's a lot of different types of businesses you can buy. What brought you to that HVAC world?
Some of it was the problem solving. Some of it was having a little bit of background, again, from being a plant manager a couple of places. Recurring revenue was a big one because, even if you're not doing installs, you're doing service work, you're still going to touch the customer a lot. I had looked at other businesses which were market something, and maybe the customer comes back in 5 years. I didn't want that. So it just kind of fit. It was, it was a good buy at the time.
What was like when you first looked at this business? What was your original thoughts on it? Like when you start researching these companies, like what made the company that you bought the fit for you? Because I imagine you probably looked at a few of them, or.
Yeah, actually, this was the only HVAC company I looked at. And when I got a hold of the financials, there was basically very low 5 figures spent on marketing. I'm talking like, $15,000, $20,000.
Really?
Yeah, and the company did pretty well. And the gross margin was low. So I knew with, a little bit of marketing and a better sales process, we could increase the gross margin. And I just kind of went for it and figured, well, that's what we're going to do. So when we bought the company, we pivoted almost immediately to a high touch, high service, or as much as we could at the time, raised our margins, spent a little bit of money on marketing. We tripled revenue in 21 months.
Wow. That's interesting. Very interesting. What was the business originally focused on when you first bought it?
Yeah, so good
'Cause
questions.
I know it's transitioned a little bit. I definitely know there's been some changes in it. We're going to get into that. But what was it originally focused on?
So originally it was just an HVAC business in the 80s. And by 2020, when I bought it, the previous owner had done a fair amount of Mitsubishi ductless work. He would do pretty much anything, but really moved a lot of Mitsubishi ductless. And so when I bought it, I would say we were maybe 80%, 75% ductless, mostly Mitsubishi.
Wow.
We do 10 or 15% unitary and then a real small amount of commercial work.
There was already a slight transition, not a slight, but a big transition.
Yeah, fairly heavy transition.
To ductless heat pumps in that product. Yeah. So you first come in and you see that, but the margins were low on that work?
Very low. Yeah. So previous owner actually thought he was running a 30% gross margin. He was running a 30% markup, which is a 22% gross margin.
Oh, that's a common problem in this industry.
Yeah.
I see it a lot. I just saw it the other day, matter of fact, 2 days ago in Pittsburgh, when it's funny because I just did a class of about 20 guys in the class. And I'm seeing this a lot now over the last year that I'm seeing out of 20, 10 of the people who are in the class out of the 20 have been in business less than 2 years.
Oh, yeah.
So they're transitioning away from these bigger companies. They're starting their own company and they don't understand margin and markup.
Yeah, they don't understand.
And that's amazing. A guy from 1980s how old was this business? Original owner?
So the guy I bought it off of was the second owner.
Second owner. Okay.
Yeah. So he'd had it for 9.5 years. And interestingly enough, he had raised the pricing significantly the year before. Let's just say, a year and a half before I bought it, he wasn't making much money.
Why did he sell it to you? Just curious. Retiring or tied to business?
He was in his 30s, and he had grown the business to the point where he couldn't run it by himself anymore. And, he was one of the old school techs where you'd mention a customer by name or by address, and he'd say, "Oh, yeah, that's Mrs. So-and-so. She's got a third floor walk up. We did a boiler there and, something else." And he had everything in his head, and it was an amazing, that he could do that, but you can only get so big doing that. And he'd gotten too big and the stress was substantial.
Yeah. And that's really where it comes to technician and owner. And I think that's where a gentleman like yourself fits into that role where now we're going to turn this into a business.
Exactly.
We're going to make this a business, not just a repair company or a replacement company or an installation company. That's an interesting story.
Yeah.
So, now you own this company now, 5 years, fast forward the clock 5 years. What changes have taken on in this company since over the last 5 years with products and people and?
Oh, God.
I know that's a loaded question, but
yeah. So again, I'll kind of chunk it up a little bit. I would say product mix wise, we still do a lot of ductless. We have a master sheet metal license. We do an enormous amount of ductwork.
Wow. Okay.
We have an AeroSeal machine, and
you don't usually hear this.
Yeah, no, we are one of the few companies that are, I think we've done between 25 and 30 fully ducted systems this year. It's almost one a week.
Is it with a combination of ductless and a heat pump?
It depends. What we found is, especially with new construction or much newer construction, you put a bunch of 6K mini split heads on a second floor of a home that's got a 18,000 BTU heat load. It just doesn't work well. The bathrooms aren't conditioned. There's, 3 or 4 bedrooms, and it just doesn't work. So, instead we'll put an 18K ducted system up there, maybe zone it, maybe not. And the price delta isn't that much. It's a little bit, but the performance is so much better. So we do a lot of that. And if it's open concept on the first floor, maybe we do a ductless heat pump on the first floor because it's a real easy solution.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is, I hear most jobs are oversized versus undersized most of the time.
Yeah, we run very aggressive heat loads. I tell people, I've probably run something like 7,000 manual J calculations in the last 4 years. And we run them very aggressively, and we have never had a sizing problem.
Wow. And you know what? You're probably one of a few contractors that only does that, to be honest.
Yeah. We run them in the house.
Oh, okay. Yeah, before technology, a lot of guys weren't doing that.
Yeah, we do
amazing. Yeah.
That's part of the quote. We do the heat load. Even when we were using RightSoft and some of the CAD-based systems, we would run the heat load in the house, design your system in the house, give you a price in the house.
Yeah. Is the business mix, is the model still the same, or what else has changed in this business?
So the general philosophy is the same. It's high touch, high service, customer is first, very focused on customer service. But at this point, we're full service, right? So we will work on your oil or gas boiler. We will do high efficiency, standard efficiency. We'll work on your steam system. We will do anything that we can figure out and make sense. We won't take on anything. Like yesterday, I went to a house in Fitchburg. It was a 3-decker, and they wanted a new steam boiler for the 3rd floor, but they'd already ripped out all the piping and all the radiators. And I said, that's a no quote for us. We're just not doing that. The flip side would be, we had a couple, I think it was 2 years ago, who built an underground concrete domed house. It was like 3,000 square feet and had a 24K heat load.
Wow.
And so we ducted that, and it was mostly an air moving process because the south side of the house was all glass, and then basically the whole rest of the house was underground. And we just moved a lot of air and did a lot of dehumidification in that. Yeah,
see, this is what a lot of guys don't really understand. I would imagine that mechanical background comes into play a lot with that.
Yeah. So my son helps me run the business, and then we have another guy that quotes as well. So the 3 of us are all degreed engineers. So we concentrate heavily on system design.
What do you think the biggest challenges you faced during this transition? Okay, you're a new owner, you're coming in. What were some of the biggest challenges that you faced during this transition? I mean, I personally have been through it too, but I like to hear from someone who actually was coming in to buy it versus who was exiting.
Challenge I think we had the first couple of years was personnel, getting the right guys that understood the brand, could treat the customers well, could live up to the quality of install we were looking for. We hired a lot of people in 5 years to get to the 28 employees we have now.
Yeah, that's what I thought I was going to hear was people. And what would you say was the second biggest challenge you faced?
I think we've done well with it, but the marketing is always challenging because, the data never lines up cleanly. So you try something and, did that work or didn't it work? But, we're pretty happy with where we are. We do all of our own marketing in-house. The woman that does it is great. So we're really happy with where we are. But, from just like a sort of data standpoint, it's really, marketing's just super challenging.
It's a moving target, and things are changing as we speak every single day.
Yeah.
Every single day, when we look at marketing. And I was going to your website, last night I was taking a peek at it, and I was like, it looks really nice. It's got a lot of case studies on it. It's got it's a very informational website.
Yeah.
Very informational. When people go to look at it, look, this is what we do and how we do it. And I gotta commend you on that. That's really nice how that was done. Very clean.
Yeah, appreciate that. So what's very interesting about that's kind of our philosophy, right? You know, we're very straightforward. This is what we do. This is how we do it. We try to be information leaders. And with the advent of AI search, we have skyrocketed in AI search because of all of that content.
Content's king. I always say it. You know, yeah. I still think today, I mean, it's still good content. It's what people find you, you know, because people can't find you from J. Moody Heating and Cooling. Let's say no J. Moody Heating and Cooling. What does J. Moody Heating and Cooling do is what's going to get found through those searches. And you know, I always found that there's nothing more upsetting to me when I personally see a company that spends tens of thousands of dollars on pay-per-click or thousands of dollars on pay-per-click a month. And I click the ad to go see, and it goes to a home page where there's no information about what I found you for and what I'm looking for.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, no landing page.
Nothing. It takes me to a site that is just, why are they even spending the money doing that?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, marketing, I think, is something to have someone on top of it is good in-house. It really is. I mean, that's a real good thing to have.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this question is, why do you find, I mean, look, this business is 70-80% heat pumps.
Yeah.
Why? What makes it different? Like, why that type of a company?
Oh,
like what makes it easier or harder or just, why do you find ductless heat pumps is a big part of your business? Why do you do this? Why wouldn't you just do straight unitary, 70% unitary versus heat pumps?
Yeah, good question. So I would say, especially here in New England, any house built pre-1985, 1990, there's no air conditioning. Right? It's it was an oil boiler or maybe a gas boiler if you got lucky, baseboard, radiant heat, no AC solution. And,
you were lucky if you had a fan in your room when you were a kid.
Yeah. And, take politics out of it. It's considerably hotter now than it was in 1985.
Yeah.
And we're not going to argue about why.
Yeah.
It just is. And so there's a huge retrofit market versus, we'll talk to somebody from Texas and they're like, yeah, we just change air conditioners and furnaces every 10 years because they get worn on
all day long, every 10 to 12 years.
Yeah. And we explain that, we're doing all these new installs and they just can't understand why there's so many installs, but there's this massive base of houses.
Yeah.
So you got a 3-bedroom ranch. You only need 3 heads in it. A ductless system is a great option. Or if you've got an old colonial, if you have 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, that's a ducted system. We're just going to duct that. And, we're going to use a heat pump because of tax credits and rebates. What we generally tell people is by the time you buy a 2-stage air conditioner, I can give you a 75-stage heat pump for the same price. You'll get it because of rebates and tax credits. It'll work way better. So it's generally a pretty easy sell.
Exactly. So let me ask you this: Do you use these products in your own office or your own home?
Yeah. So our office block is hooked up to a Mitsubishi SM48, and every single office has something. We also use it as a showroom.
Yeah.
So we have ceiling cassettes, we have floor mounts, we have a small SEZ ducted. We've got everything in here.
Got a little bit of mix of everything.
Yeah, but it runs. And then at my own house, I've got a 1776 Colonial. It's 250 years old. And I have a Bryant Evolution 5-ton air handler hooked up to a hydrocoil that runs off a Rinnai boiler. And, I'm on heat pump, 90-95% of the year. And the rest of the time, if I'm on generator, I'm on hydrocoil. If it's really cold out, I'm on hydrocoil. If I need to really warm the house up fast, I'm on hydrocoil. Works great.
Huh, interesting. So here's a loaded question for you.
Yeah.
I always like to ask this to guys on the show is, how do you handle a DIY customer when you go into their home?
Yeah. So,
because we get a lot of it. There's a lot of this DIY stuff in today's world, and
yeah.
or even the online pricing objection.
Yeah.
I mean, we see it all the time, and online has changed even more now as far as just equipment. We've got online sellers coming in and selling complete jobs now that don't even go to a house.
Oh, yeah.
I physically don't even know how this is happening in our industry, but it is changing fast and furious every single day.
Yeah. So, yeah. So in the house, we get it some. We probably don't get it as much as other people because our target market is a little more educated and probably has a little more money, generally a little less handy. And so, we don't get it a lot in the house. We get it some. We do talk about, somebody will come back and say, well, the equipment's this much. And we'll say, sure, it is, but you also need all these other things that you don't know goes into the install. So that costs as much as the equipment. And I said, how much do you think my guys need to make? That they've got families, they've got, they have to have health insurance. They're showing up at your house in a beautiful logoed Mercedes van. And we go through the whole thing. And some people are convinced, other people aren't. And if you're not, that's fine. We do get every spring, hey, my Mr. Cool that I put in last year doesn't work. Will you come out and service it? And we say, no, it's a DIY model. It's DIY. Yeah. We're not doing that.
Yeah. I think the other thing too that you mentioned to me is a huge value or a huge service that I think people really need to understand. And I really focus on this when I go into trainings now with you're not selling something when you're in the home. You're designing and you're engineering and you're running load calculations. You're spending all this time and putting a customized system together for their home. And I just don't see how any type of an online seller could even remotely even do that or have, I always say this, the knowledge is so extremely powerful that I would say this to customers too. And I think, and you've probably said it too, is my knowledge, look, in my time, look, that I'm here today, I'm gonna be honest with you, it's not free. If you buy the system, we have a lot more to do on the back end of what we need to do to get this into your house. And just the time and energy and focus I'm going to spend here. I'm not just picking out things out of my pocket here. I'm designing something, and that's a huge value. I think customers oversee so much.
Oh yeah.
When guys, like yourself, walk into a home with the expertise that you have, it's just that knowledge. It comes with a price. Am I right or wrong?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. There's no question. Do we get pushback sometimes? Absolutely. But, we have
going to happen,
we generally have a 40% close rate, which is pretty good. So, I'm not unhappy with a 40% close rate.
I would be.
So, we're not going to win them all. We know we're not going to win them all. Some people are willing. We have this thing that we call, I was extra charming today, right? And so what that means is, I think the most charming I've ever been is $12,500 in one day. There was
You're that good looking, huh?
I don't know. Let's say the homeowner was an engineer. He and his wife were both home for the appointment. They had a hydrocoil with an AC that I suggested we replace with, it was actually Bosch equipment. We're going to put a hydrocoil on it. Yeah. And their oil company gave them a very comparable quote. Wasn't exactly the same because they were using a first company air handler on a Bosch outdoor. And I put Bosch on Bosch. And I was like, $24,500. And the oil company was 12,500. And we won. So, so I was $12,000 charming that day.
That's good.
Because I could explain why.
Yeah. I mean, and again, you could explain why with the knowledge.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, and I think you'll vouch with me with this one. Most heat pumps are not a one-step in the home, close the sale, do what I got to do, high pressure, get in, get out. I always found there was a lot more touches after the fact.
Oh,
I
yeah.
always found it was 2, 3, 4 more touches of just a lot more conversation, because it is not remove and replace. It's not broke today. It's not just push, pull, push, pull, push, pull all day. And that's why I say with these systems, the education that needs to happen is just has to happen. You can't wing it, I guess would be what I would say.
Oh,
you know,
yeah,
and
no,
we got a lot, and that's what I feel a lot of these online companies are doing, is they're winging the sell to just create money. And I think a lot of this is going to end up in a lot of problems later on, and especially sizing problems.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of sizing problems. I would say a lot of people that do in-home sales have the same problem. They don't have a deep understanding of the equipment. They can't talk about turn down ratios and, why
it is.
This configuration is better than, this other configuration, or this equipment manufacturer in this particular design is much better than a different equipment manufacturer in the same design. And, I always tell people I'm an engineer, so I don't read the instruction manuals, but I do read all the spec manuals. And so, my whole team, we really get deep into the specs. So we can tell you what the D rate is on a Bosch 3-ton condenser at 13 degrees versus 5 degrees, and whether that's going to heat your house or not.
Yeah.
So, we spend a lot of time in the house. If it's a 3-bedroom ranch, I'm still there an hour and 20 minutes. And if you've got a complicated colonial with a room above the garage, I might be at your house for 2 or 2.5 hours, and I'll stay as long as you have questions.
Yeah.
The most I've ever stayed in a house was 4.5 hours. It was a Friday, and it took me days to get home, but it was a good job. It was a $90,000 job.
Yeah.
And it was a super complicated house.
And that's where the knowledge is power.
Yeah.
And I think when people see that, now they see the value in the knowledge.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's the whole company too, right? Once you accept a job, you're going to talk to my office manager, who's going to walk you through the entire mass save process or the next zero process for a municipal.
Yeah.
We're going to walk you through all your financing options. Just everybody. It's top to bottom. So.
That's a company strategy. When we look at business, when we look at the business side of this, I gotta ask you a question here and kind of see where this one goes. What training or education do you find most valuable? When people are bringing, this comes up all the time. You're seeing people bring you training, hey, Leo, you want to come here, you want to do this. Like, what do you find, like, when you go to a training, what do you want to get out of it? Like, what do you find most valuable? What types of trainings are most valuable to you as an owner?
As an owner, the most valuable training I can get is technical training, not on repairs, but on the product itself.
Okay.
So, I want to know what your turn down ratios are. I want to know what your thermal cutouts are. I want to know when you're going to start to derate and by how much, airflow issues that we got to deal with, things like that. That's the most important thing to me. I don't find a great deal of the business training super valuable, but I'm coming from a far different background than most people who have a company.
That don't understand margin and markup.
Yeah. If you
don't have a good sales process, or don't understand marketing or things like that. I did with some guys. They have no marketing process, don't know the difference between margin and markup, don't have a price book, can't give a quote in a home, don't know turn down. That they don't know that basic stuff of business. Never mind all the technical side of it. And I think this is where a lot of these smaller guys have a lot of learning to do.
Yes.
And I think that the gentleman that might have owned it prior to you knew a lot of that, but didn't know the side that you had.
Yeah. It's
to come in and actually create the business side of it. When you look at any specific strategies that you do with like marketing, online presence, or anything like that, or processes that you find really help your company, Look, I know we might have competitors listening, and I get that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We don't want to give away any secrets or anything, but, we know that you're bringing people in and you have a showroom somewhat that are looking at, but, what do you find, like, really works best?
I would say from a marketing standpoint, and again, not trying to give away the farm, but we have a very specific brand and we are extremely consistent with our brand. Our marketing reflects it, our trucks reflect it, our guys, the people in the office, everybody gets the brand. And that is the easiest way to not work here is if you can't get the brand, understand the brand, and rep the brand. So that, that's one thing. I think process-wise, so I'm an ex-process engineer. My son is an ex-process engineer. The guy that runs a warehouse in quotes, and he's like our Swiss Army knife, he's an ex-process engineer. So the one thing we tell people, this is like new employees all the time, is I hope you're ready for change because we change things constantly and we experiment and we will try something new. And if it doesn't work, we'll undo it and we'll probably try something new a few weeks later. So we're that Japanese Kaizen kind of, we're looking for a 1% increment every couple of weeks. And 1% doesn't move the needle except when you do that every single week and you're way improved by the end of the year. So we've rearranged our warehouse. I mean, I'm not kidding you, 30 times since I've owned the company, and we still tweak it. But, at this point, wow, it's impressive. I went to, I won't mention the company by name, but it was a big, big company. They roll 300 trucks out of one location locally. And, we got the privilege of seeing how they run their operation. And honestly, my son and I were really disappointed because it was exactly how we ran ours. And so, we thought we were really going to learn something, but apparently what we'd figured out in, a couple of years of trial and error, this gigantic corporation had taken years to figure out, and we were right there with them.
It takes that time. Like you said, I was a very process-driven guy too, and I learned that from a guy that I worked for prior. And it was, if you can speed up efficiency with a good process, and most companies fail because they don't have a process for things, and a lot of it is just trial and error and winging things and doing things, and some of it is just common sense things that they know, but they don't know how to implement it sometimes.
Yeah. So the other thing that
don't know how to put it together. And warehouses are big because warehouses is where you lose a ton of efficiency as your business grows. A ton.
Yeah. The other thing people will do is they will, trip over dollars chasing pennies.
Oh, God.
Right. They're going through and they're looking for the cheapest zip tie they can get because they're going to save, $1.19 on a bag of zip ties. And meanwhile, they've got this process that just doesn't work. And their guys go to the supply house every single morning.
God. I'll shoot myself.
Our guys walk in. Their job is skidded. It's shrink wrapped. They have they have a piece of paper that's got 3 pick lists. This is the equipment that's on your pallet. This is the equipment that is in the shop, and this is where it is, and this is the equipment that you should have on your truck. Verify it before you leave. Our guys get here at 7 o'clock in the morning. They jaw a little bit, but they're working, and everybody's out of here by 7:30, and we rarely have to go, send a guy out running stuff out because it wasn't in the truck, or the guys don't go to the supply house and, have 8 cups of coffee and waste 2 hours.
My guys never went to supply houses. That was like the golden rules. Do not go to a supply house.
Yeah, that's the killer.
The supply house came to me and put stuff in my bins, and we built kits. Yeah. And when our heat pump job went out the door, we had 10 jobs lined up for the day. This is your pallet. this is your box. This is your pallet. This is your box.
Yeah,
This
that's
is
how
your
we do it.
equipment. This is your equipment. This is your toolbox. This is what's going with it out to the field. It all got verified before it went out. We had, 2 warehouse guys would check that. The other guy would check the list. No. And if you didn't have something, we knew the things that guys would miss every now and then. And we always had that stuff in the truck, the truck. And, I was looking at, I'm coaching a company right now that they have no internal process of after they sell the job. They're good at selling it, but he's got an 8-week backlog of everything that's going on. And now I'm looking at the 8-week backlog and I'm grasping it because of zero process.
Yeah.
They sell the job and then the guy goes to the supply house to pick up the job. And the only thing they call in is the equipment, and then the installer is getting all of the parts and pieces at the supply house in the morning. Can you imagine doing that?
That's ridiculous.
I'd kill myself. The amount of time and waste and money in that, you could pick up a week's worth of efficiency just in that one thing.
Yeah, you can't make money doing that.
No. And as these guys grow, they don't even grasp that until they get to that point. Now it's like, okay, now we need, or they don't have a building. They can't do it. They're still working out of their garage and the company is growing and they can't understand everything that they need to do with that, So
yeah.
In closing here, I guess, what would you tell contractors who aren't focused on heat pumps? Don't get in it, especially in my area. Don't get in it.
Yeah,
what should they do first? What should they do first if they're not doing anything now?
I would say go get some training on a heat pump. Try to understand the efficiency gains of a heat pump, understand what SEER and SEER 2 are, right? Every single increment in SEER is a 5 to 7% increase in electrical efficiency. If you can't use that to sell a 19 SEER system over a 15 SEER system, you got some problems.
Most guys can't talk to that.
Yeah, but you should be able to.
Most guys cannot talk to that. But what common mistakes should they avoid? I definitely know some of the mistakes I made.
So what I see a lot is, and the previous owner used to do this a lot too. He would install anything. It didn't matter what it was. And so one of the first decisions we made was, okay, what brands are we concentrating on? So, in 10 years, the service guys walk in and it's a Buderus oil boiler or a Conforto oil furnace, or it's a Bryant AC, or it's Mitsubishi, or, some other ductless brand. But they're not walking in going, oh, here's a Peerless, here's a Weil McLean, here's a Buderus over here.
Oh my God, yeah.
Here's Bryant, we got Goodman, we got, boom, 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 28 different brands because that's all that's available. Number one, just pick a couple of things and stick to it, right? That's the first thing. Get good at understanding what you do, and narrowing the brands will be a huge improvement.
Yeah. Know what you do and do it well. Don't do 1,000 different things.
Yeah. Kind of narrow your focus. So, we started off as the heat pump specialists, and yes, we are the heat pump specialists, but we're not ductless anymore. We're ducted. We're ductless. We have a master plumber. We have a master electrician. We'll put in your generator. We'll do whatever you need us to do. But yes, we specialize in heat pumps.
But I think the process is the equipment. When we look at all the equipment now that most manufacturer across the heat pump line offers, there is a variety of different types of indoor air movement equipment.
Absolutely.
And as a company, you got to adjust to that, when it was just wall hung units, that was one thing, but I think all of these brands now have adjusted to air different, floor mounts, wall mounts, ceiling recessed, low static ducted, high static ducted. You have to know the products and adjust to them in a home, and dual fuel and teleheats and different things like that. But I think if you know the brand and know the product and do the proper trainings, like you said, stay focused. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And the other thing is, if you're doing new construction, oh my God, don't run the manual J and size it right. we had a guy call us because he needed us to run a manual J for him, and we started talking to the guy, and it was a small operator. He was doing a new house. It had about a 24K heat load, but he was planning on installing 60K of ductless so he could cover all the rooms. And we're like, dude, that is not going to work. Like, it's not a thing.
What gives you the most optimism about the heat pump market and where it's going? As we start to close here, just kind of like, what are you seeing? Like, what gives you the most optimism about heat pumps? Because look, it's 80% of your business.
Yeah, so I would say compared to normal unitary, I think this just got announced yesterday. I believe this is at a federal level. Everything, all new furnaces after 2028 have to be 95% efficient.
Oh, they're back to that again, huh?
Yeah. So, okay, one, how's that going to work in an attic? If you have an 80%er in the attic, you can't replace that with a 95% without sealing that attic. So that's a great heat pump application.
Yeah.
Nobody is really putting in R&D into super high efficiency air conditioners because super high efficiency air conditioners are heat pumps.
Yeah.
I think naturally the old unitary stuff is it's going to kind of go away on its own, and not for everybody, but for a lot of things. And the efficiency of the heat pumps is so good, they sell themselves if you can understand what it is and explain it to the customer. Well, so it's just on the contractor. It's not a market thing. It's just on the contractor to understand it.
Great. Well, Leo, hey, it's been great chatting with you this morning. I think we got a lot of good information that we can share with contractors throughout the country here. And, I look forward to seeing you. I know we're going to see each other a lot moving forward. Yeah. So have a great day and go charm. Let's charm more than 12,000 today. Okay.
Let's see how charming we can be, right?
See how charming you can be today. Okay.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, great. Have a great day. Thanks for joining, though.
You
Take
too.
care. Bye-bye.
All right.